The other thing that I wanted to talk about as well is before we go into the Saudi Arabia video is this controversy because the top six, the Premier League clubs, whatever, think that there's a deal between Saudi and us and they're overinflating the figures. It's about 25 million that they reckon Saint Maximin might go. Is that overinflating Saint Maximin's? Right, we're here. This is the first video of the new season, so we're back with a regular from the channel and a newbie. So if you just want to introduce yourselves first of all.
I am, and I'm Sean. You alright?
Yeah.
Sandy.
Yeah. So both long-term Newcastle fans, yeah.
I've been a season ticket holder since 1989, I think it is.
Yeah. And what's this going to do? Champions League football this season for you, then?
It's going to regenerate my happiness and just like I can't wait. I mean, I remember being there sitting in St James's Park 40 minutes before kick-off on the night we played Barcelona, and the whole stadium was full, and the atmosphere even before kick-off was absolutely bouncing. Just listening to the Champions League theme as the players come out the tunnel and the hairs in the back of your neck stand on end. Just that moment. I just quite enjoy just having a little run in the Champions League and having a little campaigning and building from there. Just going abroad as well, man. The Geordie's going abroad.
Plan on a few of them trips?
I hope so, if I can afford
it. Right, well, it's been a long summer without the football so far, so there's a few talking points to kind of cover first. Firstly, the Newcastle tops. There's been 3 of them being released over the summer. You're wearing one of them now, you're rocking them. What's your thoughts on that? It's got Champions League badge on the side.
I really like it. I really like it. When I've been looking at it carefully, I like the little grey bits, because that takes me back to the 80s. The V-neck I like. I'm not sure about the
nude.
Yeah, I had to really I washed it on a cold wash because.
Did you get that when it came out?
The thing is though, there's been.
No, I actually got this. It was my birthday last week, and I've just bought it.
That was what I was going to say, because there's been 2 kits out more recent. How do you rate the new kits in comparison to the first one? We've seen the 3rd kit just come out.
Well,
last week.
the third kit, they've kept the best of last for me. Like it looks fantastic, and it's one of them you can wear for going out with, because it's navy and then you can put on with your jeans and things like that, and it still looks smart.
70 quid as well.
Aye, but do you know what it is? If it'd been this time 2 years ago, I don't think anyone would have bought the top, and it would have all been would all be going to DH and things like that.
Yeah, well, there's queues around the street every time there's a kid out at the minute.
Yeah, but we know what our hard-earned money is going back into the club when we buy these shirts now, and we're seeing it already. So, I was a bit miffed the other day when my Champions League payment went out in my account, thinking, we haven't even been pulled out the hat yet. And I thought, well, actually, they might be putting towards a recent player or something like that. So I was like, well,
fingers crossed.
Aye.
I think, to be honest, it's just nice to see a different sponsor on the shirt.
Yeah.
Post Mike Ashley era, I hate to bring him up, but it's nice to see all these changes and the new ownership made their stamp, getting a new sponsor in as well. I think it's brilliant. I know there's been a bit of a dispute about the lettering on the badge at the bottom. Some people have been taking their shirts back, but to me, I think it's a really smart shirt. I liked last season's as well, to be fair.
Which is the best of the 3, do you reckon?
The black and white one for me.
Traditional,
I'm going to say that, just because it's tradition, isn't it? That's us. That's our colour. I am a fan of the away kits as well, but yeah, I think the black and white one for me, it's just smart as out.
I'll agree with you. That last kit that's come out, I was blown away by. I thought that was something totally different to anything else that's been out in Newcastle.
Aye.
Big fan of it.
It feels
it is different.
It feels like Castori's trying to push to try and get the deal back, because I think the deal runs out at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And there's rumours about Adidas. So it feels like they've kept their best to last, really, this season.
Yeah, and they're trying to milk the golden goose by the
Aye.
sound. So in the summer as well, Anthony Gordon was away with the under-21s. He won player of the tournament. He absolute rave reviews. What did you make of his performance?
I mean, I think it's brilliant, that Anthony Gordon. It's brilliant for us. It's brilliant for him. He's had a cracking tournament, getting player of the tournament, and he really did look the part. I know it's under 21 level, but it's still a good level of football, and I said it last season, a lot of people were on social media, I've seen it on Twitter, people saying negative things about Gordon and how he was underperforming, he hasn't done anything since he came in, and I said it, like, give the lad a break, you know. He is going to be some player for us next season. I think it's going to be a massive season. I think the 3 players for me next season who I think are gonna like really come on is Anthony Gordon, Elliot Anderson, who's been absolutely fantastic, by the way, in pre-season.
Had a good game last night.
He was
as well.
brilliant last night.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And Alexander Isak, I just think he is going to rip the Premier League to bits. I think.
Yeah.
He's going to be some player for the next season.
Well,
that's just my prediction.
With Gordon, was that exactly what he needed? Probably just that boost of confidence, because he was sitting on the bench a lot. He hadn't broken the team. He probably left expecting to get more minutes. Is that really what he needed?
I think what happened is, and he'd admitted himself in one of his last interviews of the season, is that he didn't realise how fit you need to be to play for Newcastle United and Eddie Howe. And Eddie Howe could see, in comparison to his players, that he wasn't at their levels. So he's held them back. He did that with Isak at the beginning of the season, and was building them up. And he had been getting in the senior England squad a couple of times. And I think Eddie Howe said, do you know what it is? If you get a chance to go away with the under-21 side, get yourself away, get yourself a good campaign, and build up more to fitness. And I think it's going to pay dividends come the start of the season. He's already looked in the past couple of games I've seen the fittest player on the pitch. So.
And he was probably disheartened as well with the lack of starts that he got.
Yeah.
You know, but I seen him against Chelsea and we've seen what he can do. You know, the late run into the box and then the tap in, but you have to be there to put them in the back of the net. And you know, it was just they're the sort of goals I think he'll be scoring for us, like inside the box, getting in behind the defence. You know.
But we'll be digested as well, the transfers, because there's been a few transfers. There's still a lot to come. Hopefully, what is the ideal front 3 for Newcastle next season? I mean, this is going to be a season unlike a lot with Newcastle, where the team doesn't necessarily pick itself. There's going to be a lot of options that's on the bench that's maybe just as good. This is, bear in mind that Saint Maximin is going to get his move, because this is recorded obviously on a Monday, so just in case people are thinking,
yeah,
it's going to be a hard one, isn't it?
Is Isaac going to be on the wing? Wilson up front?
Isaac's got to be in the middle for me. Like,
yeah.
he's got to be in the middle. I mean, we've seen what he can do when he's in the middle. You know, he does a good job on the the times he played on the left. I thought he'd done a really good job. You know, that run into the box against Everton was just absolutely ridiculous. So we know what he can do, but I think, you know, he's going to get more goals if he's played that through the middle, definitely.
So you've got Isaac central.
Yeah.
Who's on your left and right?
I would say Gordon on the left.
Yeah.
And I'd probably stick with Miggy on the right.
Yeah.
So who would you put in the middle then? Because then you're going to have to let down the warrior that is Joe Linton, arguably the best player we've had this season.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going Gordon on the left, Isak in the middle, and Almiron on the right.
And move Joe Linton back to a central.
Yeah. Unless we get a blockbuster signing on the right of the 3.
Yeah.
Might move Miggy out of there, but it would have to be a really, really good signing to move him out of there.
Yeah. What's your front 3 this season? Ideal front 3.
I'm a traditionalist. I like the old Newcastle way, but it's not the way we're playing European football. I like a 4-4-2. In the ideal world, I would say Wilson and Isak up front, and I'd probably have Barnes on one wing, and I'd have Gordon on the other. But then, I like the idea of Joe Linton in a three midfield. So it's hard.
On the left side. Is that probably going to be the most competitive position on the field for Newcastle this season? Because you've got Barnes that arguably plays there, you've got Gordon that plays there, you've got a few others like Murphy and stuff that can fill in, you've got Joe Linton.
Well, that's it. Like, I'm seeing Gordon on the left, but I don't know. It's just from what I've seen from him, like when he played for Everton. You know, Barnes is a really, really good signing. He's going to be a really good player for us as well.
What's his best
position?
To be honest,
Barnes.
Seen him. And he seems to be going for a versatile player who can play in a few positions.
That,
so with Barnes,
I mean, that's one of the main reasons he's bought Barnes in comparison to Saint Maximin. His versatility, you could probably play him anywhere across midfield, and a bit like Gordon, you can probably push him up front in a more advanced role, or a number 10. I just think he's Eddie Howe doesn't want a one trick man. He likes a person that can do more than one position, and he's going to need that because
extra games.
Even though we've got the money, we can't, because of financial fair play, to just suddenly build a big squad like Chelsea did last year.
Yeah.
We've got to be very astute with every single player we buy and think, well, actually, we don't need a player for just that position, but can he play that position and that position? And then so I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see a lot of rotation between certain positions quite regularly.
Yeah.
And it'll keep them both on their toes.
To be honest as well, like if the team sheet's going to read out Barnes on the left, Callum Wilson in the middle, you know, maybe even Isak on the right, or Almiron still, you know, you're still going to be happy.
Yeah.
So in terms of the strikers, it is a tough one for me, you know, but I'm going to go with Isak, but you'd still be happy with Wilson through the middle.
See,
it's a very close call, and I think it's a close call between Gordon and Barnes, because I think they're both brilliant players on the day.
Yeah, so firstly the transfers that's come in, because we went off topic, my fault a little bit, so just to kind of fetch it back a little bit to where we're at the moment. So are you happy at the moment? So bear in mind, at time of recording, we've got Tonali. He was reported around 60 million. What are your thoughts on him as well? Now, I must admit, I did watch a bit of the game last night, and it was widely reported that he had a bad game. Does that maybe fill you with a bit of bad confidence? Pre-season doesn't really matter too much, isn't it? How much, because we've never talked about him, we weren't even linked with him last season. What's your thoughts on him as well, and how far can he go this season?
I think he's got the potential. If you look at Declan Rice and the money that Arsenal's paid for him, we could have an absolute bargain on our hands. And yeah, I think it's like that for any player coming from a different league to the Premier League. It's the one thing that catches most players from abroad that come to this league is pace, and you'll have to adjust to that. But when you watch them,
do you reckon he can, or was it a worry last night? No worry at all.
No. I mean, he's fit. No, I think he'll adjust. I think he's got the footballing brain. If you've got the footballing brain, then your body can catch up if you're fit enough.
To be fair as well, you know, like I think the Italian league in the last couple of seasons has really picked up. I know it's sort of faded away a bit. Now you've got AC Milan getting in the semi-finals. You've got Inter Milan reaching the final. You know, it's at a good standard at the minute. Tonali has proved by winning the league with AC Milan that he's at the highest level. I don't think it's any problem at all. I've seen enough of him against Rangers. You know, albeit it's pre-season, but he was really impressive, and I think it's too early to call. You know, we need to let him bed in and get into the season before we can start judging him.
What did you think of the price tag? Is that about right? Got a bargain? Overpaid?
Yeah, I also thought that we were linked to Chiesa and people like that afterward. I thought once we're getting him in, we might have struck again. Because once you get one, another one would probably follow, and it would raid the Italian league, but it hasn't happened that way.
Talking about Chiesa, that's the next signing I want to see. Really. I think he is absolutely brilliant. I think you would entertain the fans at St James. You would be the type of player we want at Newcastle. You know, he gets on the ball, fans get excited. You know, I would really like to see we get him, but obviously with a financial fair play, we still need to sort of hold off a bit, you know, and see what happens with Saint Maximin as well, you know.
I mean, I'll echo exactly what you just said there. As soon as we were linked with him, he became my number one target. The fact that I didn't even think it'd be possible that Newcastle could attract the likes of him. So we'll move on to the next one, Ashley Barnes. Does that signing rule him out because they've already now got a winger, or do you feel he's just a replacement for Saint Maximin and they might get another winger, which is reckon?
Well, he fills a multiple of things. Goals in compared to Saint Maximin. Saint Maximin scored, I was quite shocked at this. He's only scored 12 in the whole time he's been here. I keep thinking, he scored a lot of goals this season, he scored a lot of goals. He only scored one last season. He's always famous for his goal against Oxford in the Cup with the helicopter celebration. But Harvey Barnes is his goals and assists are quite double figures every season. Plus he's English, so he fills what quotas for English-born players that you've got to have in your squad.
Yeah, I mean,
so
you just need to look at Harvey Barnes' stats compared to Saint Maximin, you know, they speak for themselves. And I mean, I personally love Saint Maximin. You know, he's been great for the club. You know, he's a fan's favourite when he gets on the ball. He's dead exciting, what have you. But under Eddie Howe, it just hasn't happened for him, and it's been incredibly frustrating. I personally think it's because he can't follow tactics. He just seems
back, do you think?
Yeah, I just think the whole team seems to be on the same wavelength, and you could see, you know, from the stands that like he was just a bit lost, and he wasn't himself playing under a tactically astute team. Under Steve Bruce, he was given the freedom, and that's probably how he capitalised on goals and assists under Steve Bruce. You know, but like Sean says, he only scored 12 goals. He did get a few more assists. But yeah, he has really struggled under Eddie Howe. So, and as sad as I am, as sad as I would be to see him go, maybe it is time for him to move on.
Do you think, because he has been carrying a few injuries last season, by his standards it was a poor season? I don't think many Newcastle fans would disagree. I mean, he's very divisive as a character. I've never seen anyone split the fan base so much, with people love him and hate him, very Marmite. But is injuries playing a part? Could this season you seen a better Saint Maximin, do you reckon? Or?
Yeah, definitely. The
Champions League as well. Would he be suited to Champions League?
Yeah, I've always pictured. I talked about this the other week before Harvey Barnes came. I says I would keep him because I could see a game to San Siro playing Inter Milan or AC Milan and being a very dire, boring, typical Italian game, and it gets the 89th minute, and you bring Saint Maximin on and just absolutely frighten them because they wouldn't know what to do with him. And he might have been something different we would have had, especially in Europe, that they wouldn't be able to handle. But
yeah, I mean,
just he gets injured too much, and then what happens is he seems to take a run of games for him to get up to his pace.
Yeah, we didn't really see 3 or 4 games last season where you got out of them in a row.
We didn't have the time to run him in a game.
Yeah.
Because we had to keep accumulating points. It was either do it over a couple of games and win your place back, or he was getting dropped.
Yeah, I think to sum it up, we were carrying him a bit in games last season, you know, and if we want to get to the next level, we can't be carrying players like Saint Maximin, you know. So maybe Eddie Howe was looking at Harvey Barnes as that next step up, and to be fair, I think he is.
I must admit, I think he is. I think with Saint Maximin, especially when he's under Bruce, there's an episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air he always reminds me of, where it's always, I'll pass it to Will, because there's a team full of nerds and stuff playing basketball, and the whole tactic is just pass it to Will, he'll shoot and score. That was like Saint Maximin under Bruce, and I think we haven't seen, since Bruce has left and stuff, we've not seen Saint Maximin. We've seen him as a shadow of himself. Might be injuries, might be whatever, maybe he's not suited, doesn't try, but I think Harvey Barnes is, as soon as I seen it, I was like, oh no, we can't lose Saint Maximin. Now I've warmed a bit more to the idea, and I think he is probably a bit of a better player, even though I think Saint Maximin does offer a lot more against certain opposition. It would be a great tactic.
Yeah.
I think there's also been an element where Saint Maximin where he struggled in terms of the spotlight not being on him. So we've had the marquee signings like Bruno Gomes come in, and he's kind of stole the show. Before it was Maxi, and you know, I think he's probably found that quite hard as well.
I don't think he takes well to instructions neither. And I think there's been a couple of rumours last season, wasn't there, that there had been fallouts with Eddie Howe, where like Eddie Howe's...
Do you believe that? Because we get rumours and then it's up to you to decide is it true or not.
I couldn't quite believe it.
Yeah, because I just think, like, obviously Steve Bruce basically like he treated him like his son, didn't he, really? And Eddie Howe treats everyone as equal. You know, he's not the special man anymore, so... And then when he's getting told to do something to him, he'll be like, what, you're telling me to do something? Oh, it's like, you know, so... Whereas now, like, it's not like that. You've all got to work as a team and do things for each other. And he's not used to that.
Well, that's the Eddie Howe way, and the FIFA bond is supposed to be 38 million. What do you reckon of that fee? Have we got him at a bargain, or have we not paid enough?
I think it's a fair price.
Fair price?
This day and age, I think it's a fair price. You look at his goals and assists last season for Leicester, I think he got 13 or 14 goals, I think it was last season. You know, that return for a team that got relegated, I think it's pretty impressive.
You're also buying an English player, and all English players have a certain premium to them as well, don't they?
Well, the next question that I've got is, Maddison was sold for 40 million. Presumably he'll be on a bit more wages than Barnes. we were always, you've seen us every single home game there asking Newcastle fans, everyone wanted Maddison, absolutely everyone. Do you think it's a £2 million price variant between the two? Are you happy that we didn't get Maddison or what?
Yeah, I like them. I like him as a player. But I think Eddie Howe's sort of settled now. Now he's got Tonali to unleash more of Bruno.
Yeah.
So I think he's happy with that right now. The price tag, I mean, he was quoted when we were trying to buy him. We got told he was 60 million, but obviously he's only got a year. He only had a year left on his deal, so plus Leicester got relegated. So I don't know, 40 million could be a little bit overinflated. I don't know.
I think if we had got, obviously we've got Tonali now, but I think if we had added Maddison too, I think that we would have just been absolutely dreaming there with Bruno, Tonali and Maddison. You know, what a midfield that is. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened, but you know, there's still time in the transfer window, and I've said it all along. You know, we've made 2 quality signings already. There's obviously still the Livramento transfer that could still possibly happen. Personally, I think if we pay any more than 30 million for him, I think that's a bit too much. I'm actually really surprised that Southampton have rejected the 30 million bid.
I'm not, because he had a clause in his contract with Chelsea, a buyback clause that was 40 million, and I've had this feeling that they've been holding out for Chelsea to see if they would use the buyback clause.
What do you reckon his value is at the moment? His current value?
Well, he's gone under the radar for me. I haven't really seen a great lot of him. He didn't stand
out.
I think he's a quality player.
Aye.
I think he's a quality player. It's probably worth about 20-25 million.
And if he's been injured for quite a long time, what's to say he's not going to be the same player again? Do you know? So there are always a lot of players that get a couple of knocks and just something, you know.
So a bit of information about him. So I've got here that he's versatile, that he can play. He's known for being a right back, but he can also play left back, and he can play as a central defender when needed. So
well, that ticks the Eddie Howe boxes straight away.
That's what I was going to say. It ticks the box a little bit, but I'm thinking with Trippier, we've already got Ashby, we've got Manquillo, and we've got some others. We've got Kraft still. I mean, we haven't cleared the deadwood a little bit yet. Are we only signing Livramento, do you think, to play predominantly left back, and then right back for games when Trippier needs a rest and stuff? Or if we are signing Livramento, what's the attraction? What, you know, because I'm thinking, why are we paying 30 million? Because Kieran Tierney we've been linked with since early last season. Same fee, you would have just thought we'll go for this veteran of the Premier League, established top ball player against someone who's injured and just got relegated. We haven't seen a lot of. What's your thoughts?
I think it is a bit of a gamble going for Livramento. Me personally, I would go for someone else, but I just trust the process. You know, Eddie Howe obviously sees something in him, even though he's injured. Like you say, he's injured at the minute. He's just been relegated. To be honest, I think any player that comes into the club, you know, he's going to work with them and improve them anyway. So I still think it's potentially a gamble though getting him.
Where would you walk away from? 30 million now.
I'd probably walk away now.
Yeah.
If they've rejected a 30 million bid from that, I would walk away.
And is that because Newcastle, do you think? Because people just assume they've got loads of money, they've got the Saudi Arabia backers.
I think it's been proven. It's been proven in this transfer window, the one before. We are under, you know, we are under this like sort of, I don't know, stigma where other teams seem to think we should be paying more, you know, all to do with the takeover and what have you. So, you know, I think it's always going to be hard for now. Whenever we want to get big transfers in, I think unfortunately, on most occasions we're going to have to pay that little bit more.
It feels like we're not doing anything seedy. Like Man City are in trouble for quite a few things with their signings and stuff.
Chelsea's overspent quite a lot. There's a few others.
So it seems like they're trying to keep their noses very clean, which is good, and it's good to see we're not, because you can get carried away by throwing money at players. You could be buying players that aren't very good, but you're buying them. Because I remember Man City were doing that. They were buying players because other teams were interested in them, and they were just buying them. I remember players like Sean Phillips, things like that. They were just buying. They bought a lot of players at the time to stop other teams buying them. I don't, and it doesn't look very good. That like.
Well, we're at a kind of midway point of the transfer window now. It's still nowhere near the end or whatever. Everyone's mentioned Newcastle financial fair play, saying we can't spend this much. How much deep do you think Newcastle's pockets are in this window? Obviously, if we've got 30 million, we know at least it's 30 million that we're going to spend on one player. Do you think it's one player and that's it? Or do you reckon we've got a couple? Saint Maximin seems like 99.9% he's on his way. He's probably there now. Do you reckon there'll be a replacement and then another one? Do we need a central defender? What positions do you think that we need as well?
It's very hard to figure out the whole FFP thing because they're saying they're selling Saint Maximin. It'll open up another 100 million. So some people have been saying. So it's but they're also doing from what I gather is they're trying to do what Chelsea do, where they put them on 8-year contracts,
Spread it out.
So I'd still like to see another striker, me. Just because Callum Wilson is injury prone.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I would possibly take a gamble with strikers. I'm happy with Isak and Wilson. Although I would like to see another striker in. But if I was going to, out of the three more signings that we need, I would probably say defence. I would go for Disasi. I'd like to see him coming in. Midfield, I would say Chiesa or the other lad from Napoli, Kovar. I can't pronounce his name. But you know, they were on about putting a 82 million price tag at him. I would rather have the defender and the midfielder come in as opposed to striker midfield or what have you. I think take a gamble with that if we can't get the striker in.
I think for me it would be someone maybe like Livramento, but not Livramento necessarily. Someone who can have left back and defensive, kind of like a Dan Burns, because I think that's been one of the weaknesses in some games is Dan Burns. I don't think anyone can fault him on most of them, but it doesn't have that attacking threat. So I think if we had a left back signing, maybe move him in as cover for central defence, that would be the perfect sort of thing. It's just trying to get someone that's not going to rip off at the minute.
Well, that's it. And I mean, you know, this is a slow. It is a slow. Well, it's supposed to have been a slow progress. We're in the Champions League. You know, the following year after battling to stay up in the Premier League. So, you know, we have fast tracked it. But I think it's all about being patient with these marquee signings. You know, we might have to wait till next summer to get that blockbuster signing in at left back and improving in certain positions. You know, so I think fans have just got to be patient. But obviously we want to build up a squad that's competitive for the Champions League next season. We don't want to be struggling. We've seen teams in the Premier League in the past where they're limited on their squads and then they get into the Champions League, they get into the Europa League and then they crumble and they fall down the table. Yeah, and we don't want that, you know. We want it to be that natural progression. And even if we did finish outside of the Champions League places, which is, you know, it's unthinkable at the minute, but I would like to think that we can have a good go in the Champions League, you know, and maybe possibly get to the semi-finals.
When you think about revenue and turnover in all the competitions we're going to be in, they have to prioritise the Premier League, and then after that it has to be the Champions League.
Is that how you would do Premier League first and then Champions League?
Yeah, because the further you get in the Champions League, the more revenue you more sponsorship, more television rights, all of that, it builds up. Plus, you're getting shown all around the world. People will start liking you. They'll buy more shirts, everything. So it's big. I've always wanted to win a cup. I loved going to the cup final this season, but if it means generating money this season, getting back in the top 4 for me, and having a good run in the Champions League, that would be a good season for me.
Well, it's very, very early to tell. We don't know what other teams are doing with their transfers. We don't know what we're doing.
No.
Do you think we can match last season and get a top 4 finish, or do you reckon because of the Champions League games we'll probably struggle with that, or what?
I think we can improve on it. I think we've got players like Isak who was just starting to look like a player from the end of the season, and Eddie Howe's slowly introduced him. I think he could step it up another level next season.
Do you not worry about the other teams though? Because I mean, last season there was a few that had an off season a little bit by their standards. Chelsea, Tottenham, there was a few. We kind of took advantage a little bit, and that's what really helped them get top 4. Do you expect them to come good and be more competitive, or what?
I expect the other teams to come good. You know, it was going to happen. You know, like, well, to be honest, I think Tottenham, I can't see them improving. They haven't done any much in the transfer window apart from getting Maddison.
We don't know what's happening with Kane yet as well.
And
The
it
longer
will-
that drags
exactly,
on, the
we-
nervier I'd be getting as a Tottenham
Yeah,
fan.
I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty over Kane's future there. Chelsea, I think, will come good next season because I think Pochettino is an unbelievable manager. You know, to get Tottenham in the Champions League with the squad that he had, you know, he was limited for what he had.
It's Liverpool as well.
It's
Liverpool
Liverpool,
arguably had a
yeah.
bad season by their standards.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I don't worry about us because I just think Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall, they've got the team spirit right and everything, you know, and I think we can bring that squad rotation in and it not disrupt the team too much and still pull out performances, especially for home. I think we're going to be. It's going to be the same story next season at home. We're going to be a force at home. But it's just holding that away form, you know.
The Saudi Pro League has done a few favours though, because they've plucked a fair few players from Man City, Liverpool and Chelsea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think
there's a massive thing I want to talk about with the Saudi League because it's very interesting Newcastle perspective on that. So we'll cover that in the next video, don't worry, because we've got a huge massive section on that. One of the things I do want to touch on is who we played last night against Aston Villa. So they had a fantastic back end of last season. They took Diaby, who was a Newcastle United target. Is that someone that you guys, I mean, for me personally, I rate him so highly for not having seen him in the Premier League, where you've got Barnes who's played in the Premier League, so that's his kind of thing. The 3-3 was the result last night. 2-0 down, almost very unusual for Newcastle to go 2 goals down. Played with a 3 at the back at the start, and that's what's kind of caused a lot of the early disruption and stuff. Didn't really seem like it suited it too well. What did you pick up from last night? Obviously, you mentioned Anderson off camera as well. He had a fantastic game.
yeah, Anderson had a good game, but I noticed that the midfield cross passes to the wide men to Aston Villa absolutely destroyed it every time.
Yeah.
And then after that, when the final man gets through on pace.
Yeah, I thought there was too much space in midfield. But like it's pre-season, and Eddie Howe openly came out and said we're trying different formations.
Yeah, I was wary. I don't know what formation he played, but he said he did play a different formation. And I know a lot of fans were on his back, but he raised the point that that's what these games are for, to try things out, and we are going to have to switch it up.
I mean, it looked to me that he was playing 3 at the back at the start. I don't think Dummett was fit.
No.
I mean, you can't really expect him to be because he's
I
hasn't
don't know
played
why
so
we're
many
giving
games.
him that contract, to be honest.
Do you not think he should have been? Because him and it was Karius, wasn't it? The keeper who got announced on the
Yeah.
same day. Do you think that they should have been given contracts? Obviously, no for Dummett.
I mean, do you know what? A lot of the stuff said about Karius, his game the cup final, I thought he had a really good game, and he's always remembered for the 2 mistakes he made. Playing for Liverpool,
yeah.
but apart from that, he's a hell of a goalkeeper.
I think it was unfair, all the sort of bad comments and negativity. towards Karius
Goalkeepers
before the
are
cup
always
final.
remembered more for the mistakes, aren't they, than the things they do too.
It's haunted him. Yeah.
But a lot of people forget that before that nightmare cup final he had against Real Madrid, he kept 18 clean sheets in a row.
He was the best keeper in the Champions
He
League.
is a top keeper on his day, so I can see the logic, in giving him a new deal and keeping him on. I say that's a fair shout to keep Karius on, because I think on his day he'd be good cover, you know. But the likes of Dummett, for me, it's time for him to move on. But obviously, I think Eddie Howe's thinking is probably keep him for squad rotation, backup.
He's loyalty
he's an experienced player at Newcastle United. Maybe he's trying to keep them experienced figures for more in the background.
I think that's what he's doing.
Same with Lascelles.
He's doing it with Matt Ritchie as well, isn't he? Matt Ritchie barely gets a kick now, and he's been touted with Bournemouth so many times over the past 2 or 3 seasons to go back there, and it's never happened. And he seems quite happy.
I mean, the ones I'm like not too keen on, and like I would say it's definitely time for them to move on, is Lewis, Manquillo, Fraser, Hendrick, and Hayden.
Do you see a problem with them? Any of them moving on? If you go player for player, because Fraser obviously wants out the door. Some of them will be on decent wages rather. Do you see any of them that you've named being problematic to push out on, even if we wait until deadline day?
Well, Fraser, because of his behaviour, is going to might scupper him going to another club. He he used bad behaviour to get to Newcastle, and obviously there's been a fallout with him and Eddie Howe because he's been training with the kids and stuff.
Frustrating because he's a good player.
I like him. I really like him. Yeah. I think the fans took to him as well.
Yeah. I mean, I always remember his goal against Everton. You know, the place erupted, and the celebrations as well after that. You know, I think he done a knee slide. Crowd went crazy. You know, that was a brilliant moment for him and the fans. I really liked him as well until Eddie Howe axed him from the squad. I don't know what's went on there. There's obviously been some disagreement.
He did it with him before. He has did it with him when he was at Bournemouth. It was exactly the same guy, same thing, same story.
I think it's time for him to move on. But I won't hold any grudges with Fraser. You know, I wish him well. But the others, I think it's definitely time for them to go. Whether or not, I think some of them are tied in long-term contracts from the Ashley era. You know, and I think that's probably what's still keeping him here.
I don't trust Lascelles. I don't know what it is. I just don't.
He's another one who splits opinion of Newcastle fans.
Yeah, I know he had a good game against Man City, but it's like watching Doctor Who when the Daleks are there. You're hiding behind the city when Lascelles is playing.
Well, he's just been given the armband.
Aye.
What did you think of that? Because for me, it's so unusual for someone who's not going to be playing 90-80% of the matches to be the captain. Give it to someone who's going to impact it, like Trippier or someone like that. Is it unusual? Then is that who you?
Well, I think it's.
I think he's a little bit selfish if he has accepted it, because he knows he's behind in the pecking order. He's got to lead by example and get in the team and lead the team, and he's not.
So you would have refused it if you were him?
I would have him as vice captain, and I would have been man enough to say, "Yeah, Trips, because Trips' captaincy and advice and the way he's commanded his team has been invaluable the past 18 months. Everyone can see it. Even when he first came and he wasn't captain and Lascelles was in the team with him, he was over-shouting Lascelles and stuff like that. The stuff he does outside the club. I mean, you just have to see him going to meet Tonali when Tonali signed at the training ground, and he came and asked and said in front of the cameras, if you need any help, if your wife needs any help settling in, all this kind of stuff. So
which should be the obvious show, because it looks like for all intents and purposes he's hands down.
Without doubt, but I mean, the Lascelles situation, I mean, I thought Lascelles would have been gone last season. But I mean, it just shows like Eddie Howe's leadership skills and the respect he has for like long-serving players, you know, in terms of like the likes of Dummett and Ritchie and Lascelles. You know, whether we agree with what he's doing or not, it doesn't really matter. As long as the team's still performing, you know, we're still bringing new faces in and improving the team. You know, I mean, I suppose it does matter in a way, really, because you don't want to see players that aren't playing still in the squad and like warming up on the sidelines. But you know, obviously Eddie Howe's doing it for a reason, and we've just got to trust it, really. But me personally, I like Jamal Lascelles. You know, he's put in good performances forward in the past.
He's been a brilliant servant for the club.
He's been a fantastic servant for the club. You know, he stuck through when we're in the trenches in the Championship. You know, and he was a leader. You know, so you know, it is a bit of a surprise to see him get kept on, but you know, I think we've just got to go along with it and just agree with what Eddie Howe's doing, really.
That's what I would say. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and criticise Eddie Howe, because he's got this unparalleled support with the Newcastle fan base. Everything he's done since he's came in has been amazing. Is it a character flaw, do you think, or is it a positive? Because he's obviously very good at harmonising a group and keeping the whole ethic that he's got there. Should he not have been a little bit more ruthless this window? We've got Champions League. You obviously mentioned people like Lascelles, possibly Jacob Murphy, Almiron, who could have potentially been looked at and thought, oh, we'll push the board out now, we've got Champions League football. How is it a detriment, do you think, or do you think he knows exactly what he's doing, he's managing it perfectly, and how do you take that?
Well, we did so well last season with these players, so you can't argue with it, can you? You know, we bought these players for a reason originally. Maybe the previous managers just didn't do well enough to get the potential out of them. Certainly Steve Bruce didn't do it, did he? So
there's huge value in the harmony and the work.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I remember you were watching not last season, the season before, you were watching players like Dwight Gale jumping off the bench who wasn't getting a game, and he was running onto the pitch and screaming and shouting, and he hadn't been playing for months, but like he was just like, you can just see it. I mean, you've got poor Matt Target there. He hasn't getting a kick, and he's signed on the back of having such a good end of the previous season.
He's another one who could have, if he'd have been a bit more ruthless, looked at being in the chopping block.
I mean, the thing with Target now is I feel like he's been out of it that long now. Do you trust putting him back in at all, sort of thing? That's how I always feel when he goes back into the side. Because
I think with Target, it's just a case of he's been injured and what have you. So you know, it's a case of getting him in the team and giving him a good run of games. I think, you know, because we know on his day he's a top defender. You know,
I mean, Dan Burns done brilliantly, but there is times when where he is a little bit immobile, and it's cost him a couple of times, and it just seems odd seeing Dan Burns playing as a fullback because he's so good as a centre half. But like, what do you do? Because Fabian Shaw has been absolutely amazing. He doesn't get the credit he deserves. Fabian Shaw, mind. I know Botman got a lot of big credit, but Fabian Shaw has been absolutely brilliant. Like, even alongside Lascelles, he was good at times as well. You know,
they've been our best centre back pairing for, you're talking 20 years. You'd have to go back to the Woodgate days really to find a better partnership. You know.
There's just a lack of. I think we've been a bit lucky this season, the fact that they have had an injury-free kind of season, because, like you say, Lascelles maybe isn't the best. That seems like a vulnerable, for me, it seems like a vulnerable position. Just one injury away from that becoming a little bit of a crisis. Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to talk about as well is, before we go into the Saudi Arabia video, is this controversy because the top six, the Premier League clubs, whatever, think that there's a deal between Saudi and us, and they're overinflating the figures. It's about 25 million that they reckon Saint Maximin might go. Is that overinflating Saint Maximin's transfer value, do you think?
I don't know. It's different when they're selling their own players to the Saudi Pro League, especially Liverpool. What did they get for?
Nearly 25 mil now, wasn't it? 15 or something.
Aye. What was it? The midfielder called Fabinho. They sold him for about 40 million. Do you know what I mean?
What is Saint Maximin's value? Honestly, taking Newcastle half.
Well, based on how much we bought him and the impact he's made in one of the top leagues in the world,
I would say about 35 million.
I think we bought him for about 24, and the impact he's made in this league, you could sell him for, in today's market, you could probably get 40 for him, really, in a push.
Is it weird that we're selling him for so low? Because obviously other clubs are doing the opposite with us and saying, like, Liverpool, oh no, we're not selling for that. Because it seems like we've just rolled over a little bit.
I think we have rolled over a little bit. I think it's because we've got a little bit stuck in the transfer market, and I think they've got a little bit impatient. So
there's been a little bit of panic.
They want this FFP money, so they've like said, well, we'll just sell him to you quickly so we can get this other money ball rolling in. Because Eddie Howe likes to have his signings in early so he can bed them all in, and he's probably been winged into the hierarchy as well, so I can understand it a little bit. And obviously losing a little bit of money to the owners isn't great. Isn't too bad for them, is it really?
What do you reckon then, Sandy, as well with that? About 30-35, do you reckon?
Yeah, I would agree with Sean. You know, like, his value has to go up from when we signed him, because he has proved on his day that can be a brilliant player. You know, like, his performances, I can remember the one against Man United stands out for me, you know, absolutely outstanding. And he's gave the top teams a hard time, so I think on his day when he's fit and he's in form, I think Saint Maximin, you could probably agree with what Sean's saying and say around the 40 million mark. You know, we've signed Harvey Barnes Harvey Barnes for 40 million. So, you know, like, I think Saint Maximin could have the same impact as Harvey Barnes on his day.
Saint Maximin is one of only a few players that absolutely murdered Kyle Walker. Can you remember murdering Kyle Walker?
That's his famous best bit that he's ever done. You see him pep with his hands.
Not a lot of players can say that. Like, even now, in Kyle Walker's what, 35-year-old now?
Yeah, and I mean, I can remember at one time a couple of seasons ago when when Gary Neville highlighted Saint Maximin, you know, it was a pre-match talk him and Carragher were doing, and he actually said Saint Maximin is the standout player in the Premier League at the minute, you know. And I mean, you know, Gary Neville, you know, he's a brilliant pundit. He's very critical of players most of the time, and he'll praise him when he needs to. But for him to say that about Saint Maximin, I thought that was
he's a loss to the Premier League, because when you watch the Sky games, 9 times out of 10, he's one of the players that always seem to talk about. He becomes the topic of that conversation.
I must admit, like I say, we've got a Facebook page, Newcastle Supporters Worldwide, if you want to follow it. So a lot of fans were divided over Saint Maximin. A lot wanted him out in this, that and the other. I've got a feeling in a year or two's time we're going to be eating the words that we wanted Saint Maximin out. The people that did say that, because I've got a feeling maybe he was a bit injured this season or whatever. He's got it in his locker to be a world-class attacker and terrifying defender. Do you think we've seen the best of Saint Maximin here, or do you reckon he's going to get better? Because for me, I think if we're only going to get 25 million, I don't see the point of selling him. I thought we might as well.
It's only going on a 3-year deal as well. You know, you never know, he might come back.
To our parent club. Or
I mean, me personally, I would love to see him stay, because even though he has struggled under the two seasons he's had with Eddie Howe, you know, I would like to see him be given a chance, you know, and with the amount of games that we're going to have this season, you know, it's important for squad rotation. So yeah. I think he'd still be a handy player to have. So I'd be really disappointed to see him go. I mean, but at the same time, I can understand Eddie Howe's logic with trying to get rid of him for financial fair play rules if we're bringing a blockbuster signing.
Yeah.
So, sorry. Yeah. I mean, if you look at Man City, they've got 2 players for every position, and there's not one player in the Man City squad that is poor. They're all absolutely amazing. So keeping players like Saint Maximin's really what we should be looking to do eventually. But obviously it's the financial fair play that's messing us around at the minute.
So
thanks, Mike Ashley.
What I want to know, but we'll break for the next video where we're going to cover the whole topic of Saudi Arabia and everything like that. One of the things I do want to touch on, there's a little cliffhanger, is what I want to know is why the fee is so low for Saint Maximin when we're arguably negotiating with ourselves with PIF. Okay, so thank you very much for the video. If you've liked that, do the usual, follow, subscribe, everything else. A big thank you to Mr. Alex at Rosie's here. Come here for your pre-match pint and everything like that. It's here in Newcastle.